Hello, welcome back to another video on Millennium. Today I'm going to be having a little talk about the actual game because I have had a chance to play it. Thanks to Civ Games and Paradox, I've been able to view and play the beta version of the game. So I'm going to talk a little bit that in general terms. I can only talk about items that have been officially released, so I can't go into other details. The game, you have to wait until that's released slowly over time and we get to play it ourselves. I'll also be talking about some of the dev diaries as well because I haven't done a video for a little while, waiting for a bit more content to be released. So my overall impressions of Millennium are surprisingly good. I was actually surprised when I started to play the game just how much depth there is, particularly to the economic model. And what I mean by that is standard Civ type games. You have, you build buildings in the cities, you develop some resources around your city and some farms. But where Millennium is different in the economic model is particularly in the tile development around your cities and regions. There's multiple levels of tile development for a lot of the resources and actual tiles that you'll build. You'll be able to change them or upgrade them over time as you get new technologies. And with the actual resources, they'll form like a production chain. You have not only have multiple tile improvements, but you also have multiple buildings you can build in your city to use those resources to do things with. So it actually forms like more like a production chain we've seen in other Paradox games, maybe a little bit maybe like Victoria type things where you use resources in a production chains for various items. So it's not just your standard Civ type game, it's far more complex, and you're going to spend a lot of time looking at your tile development, how you're going to use that in production trains, what buildings you'll need in the cities. And the tile improvements are not just, you grab a worker like in Civ and some other games and you go and build a road and build a farm and build this. You accumulate points over time for tile development. So you've got to be careful what you spend it on because it's quite pricey to do tile developments early on. So you want to be a little bit careful with what you use it for. So it's really quite good. I really quite like the tile development and the economic model. It is quite deep for a Civ style game, which is what I found surprising. So be prepared for that. You're going to be focusing a lot on that. And that's also brought me to another thing. When I first sort of saw the game a bit, I sort of looked at the graphics a bit. I thought, the graphics could use a bit of improvement in terms of the overall map and the way it looks. But when you actually explore the map a bit and then you start doing lots of tile development and you're building these outposts and you're building regions and it all starts to come into its own, and the map then starts to look quite busy and quite good. Actually, as you're building all these improvements, it actually starts to look like a proper city and civilization. And the one thing I found with that is it started getting me really engrossed in that next turn feeling when you're trying to, I guess, get immersed into the game. And I found that a really good way of the economic depth to the game. It was really immersive, I found. And I had that feeling back when I remember I first used to play Civilization, the original one when I'm a kid. Yes, I'm that old. And I was sick at home from school for a few days. And I remember playing the original Civilization and being really engrossed in that next turn. And you keep playing, even though the graphics were rubbish back then compared to what I got today, it was still the overall the gameplay, the game development and the mechanics of the game which kept you interested, not necessarily the graphics per se. So this game, it doesn't focus on the graphics as much as, say, like a massive franchise game like Civilization with its vast resources, and it does video cutscenes and all the different empires have their own animations and leaders and things like that. This game's a little bit different. At least presently, it focuses more on the economic side of things, which I guess when you've got the paradox involved in the game, then it's pretty typical that's the case. There's a lot more depth, grand strategy per se is what Paradox focuses on, and that's why I guess why CPROM's partnered with Paradox for this game. One of the best aspects and one of the key differences with Millennium, and there are a number of game features, which I won't go to all of them now. I can only mention some of them due to they've only released a certain amount of information so far, but it makes the game unique compared to other Civ style games. One of the biggest features that they have already mentioned in a few of their dev diaries is the ages. And the ages is what really defines this game, particularly, at least early on as well, to other Civ style games. In that, you don't just progress linear, say, from Stone Age to the Bronze Age and then the Iron Age and whatever's next, medieval, and on you go. No, each age, generally, depending on what criteria you meet, will give you options for multiple different ages that you could progress down, depending on what points you actually meet or what the criteria is you actually meet to the age that you're going to progress into. So you'll look at the ages and see, oh, I want to maybe go down this path, or you might be involved in a war which forces you down another path, and so you're going to enter a different age, like an age of chaos or age of heroes, or you might just progress down the standard next to the Iron Age or Renaissance Age, whatever you want to call them. So there's a linear path where you just progress down the straight historical route, I guess you say, or there's branching off points where you've got Age of Heroes, Age of Chaos, and I don't know all the ages off the top of my head at the moment, but there are quite a lot of them, and that creates quite a lot of variety, because not only is it just a different age, no, you get like unique sets of units for that age, different types of technologies and buildings and things like that that come with each of these ages. So it's not just a simple follow the age, follow the same technology tree and progress on. No, the ages actually have a very big outcome on the direction your civilization heads in. So that is something really unique to this game that I've seen compared to other Civ style games. So my overall impressions early on are pretty good. The game focuses more on the actual gameplay, the game mechanics. They talked a bit about the combat recently. The combat system is, as you'd expect from a Civ style game, you got some groups of armies you can use. You've got ranged units and melee units and different types of units. The combat is automated, so when your armies actually engage the battle, sort of just fight it out. Not so sure I necessarily agree that all the battles should be automated. I think maybe there could be a bit of player input from there, but I understand why they've done that, because as your game progresses, you get lots and lots of battles in wars, and you probably don't spend all your turn just sitting there repeating battle after battle after battle after battle. So I can see why they've done that. And that's fine. You've got standard things in games like barbarians. There's actually barbarian leaders, which I found interesting. And they can attack you, and they're quite powerful early on. You got minor nations, which they've talked about, which you can have relations with and try and get them into your empire, or maybe you attack them and sack them. There's barbarian camps. There's outposts that you'll find, a bit like in Civilization, where you'll get your explorers will find some type of outpost, and it'll be contain some type of bonus that you may get, or maybe it'll be a negative, who knows. So there's some aspects of general type of Civ type of games that you will find familiar, and there's others which are very unique to this game. So another good feature they've got is they've got domains where you've got things like you accumulate points for government, exploration, warfare, diplomacy, and there's a bunch of others I've mentioned over time. And what happens is you accumulate points in these various domains, as they call them, and you accumulate points by taking different type of actions. If you get warfare points because you're engaging in types of warfare, or exploration because you've been exploring and you're getting certain points from various interactions or events that have occurred. And each of these domains, when you click on them, as time progresses as well, and depending on the technology and the governments and policies and everything you've set in place, will give you some different bonuses that you can use. And some of them are things like you might have to spend some time accumulating quite a few points to get enough for a settler, for example, so that early on you can go and build another city and claim some new territory. But once you've probably got your first couple of cities up and running, it then becomes a real question: do I want another settler, or do I want to take advantage of some of these other bonuses that I can get? Because you can't just build a settler in the city and also do these other things at the same time. No, you've got a choice: either build a settler and use your 30 or 50 points, however many it is, for the game as it progresses, because the points increase, the cost of the increases over time. So it becomes a real opportunity cost of what you want to do with your points. So you can't just rapidly expand, build lots of settlers, and go crazy. Same as the tile infrastructure, you can't just build lots of workers and go crazy with tiles. You have to use your tile points carefully to build what key infrastructure you want. It's good that cities and regions and stuff, the roads get automatically built and connected, so you don't need to worry about building roads everywhere. That happens automatically. So yeah, you need to really think about what you want to spend your points that you generate in domain, and sometimes it might be things like extra units, extra armies that you can get, which can be quite helpful. But I found out a few games like, oh yeah, I can get these instant armies. Yeah, this will help with war. But I quickly realised I didn't have the economy to support the armies, and I was running out of money. So yeah, you don't get carried away with trying to support a large army and getting all these free units and nice units. You need to be able to have the population economy to support it as well. One area that the Dev Diaries have talked about recently is the economy and resources. Some of the key resources are things like knowledge, which applies to technology. So the more knowledge points you get, the faster you're going to get access to various new technologies, which is pretty self-explanatory. Cultural points, which is things you'll need to unlock regions. You can get instantly muster some armies, but just keep in mind that you need wealth to maintain armies. So you need money to be able to pay your soldiers and mercenaries or whatever you get. So don't just go spending all your points on getting instant armies, because you need to be able to pay for it as well. So it might be better to build them over time, and as your economy expands, you can be able to afford to maintain that army. But it comes in handy if you're in a bit of a pinch and you've been attacked. You can maybe, if you've got some spare culture points there, you can maybe get yourself a couple extra units to help you not get killed. Improvement points, which we sort of talked about a bit, they're instead of having workers to build improvements or different units, you actually have improvement points which you can use to build certain type of tile improvements, and the various improvements come with different cost levels as well. So you've got domain XP, and I've sort of just talked about each of the sort of domains, and they unlock different types of bonuses which you'll be able to use, such as getting settlers and some more unique types of units as well. You've got ideals and national spirits, which are powerful specialized bonuses for the various empires. So there's quite a lot of areas, and you accumulate these domain points over time pretty much via your own actions, what you're doing in the game. You'll get more warfare points if you're at war, if you're fighting another empire, or can't remember if you get it with barbarians. I can't remember if you do, but I assume you do. Regional resources production. So each region can build buildings or units that's in your cities, and if you've got towns and stuff which help expand your borders, because you might want to build a town on the edge of your borders somewhere to expand the borders, because you're trying to grab a key resource that you want to include into your empire, so that you can then build improvements on it and grab that. You get influence as well. Influence is pretty self-explanatory, so it will slowly expand your influence of your borders over time, which towns and regions will all help with that, and you get buildings which can also help push your influence out, that's pretty standard Civ type game. So the resources also include various tile resources on the map, which will provide different bonuses for your populations. It might be food and production bonuses or wealth bonuses, and the different resources you can exploit on the map. Now, you've also got a thing called needs. Now, there are 9 type of needs for your population. So and that affects basically, I guess, the happiness of the population, or how happy they are with your ruling, your leadership. The more needs you provide your population also affects the rate of growth. If you're providing just sort of the basic needs and of your population, you're going to get a steady amount of growth. But if you provide more of the needs, and it gets up to a higher satisfaction level, like say 200%, your region can grow much, much faster. So keep that in mind with the needs of your population, and pay close attention to that, because that can really propel your growth. And I've talked a bit about some of the tile improvements and resources that you can get, and just to give you an idea of they call them goods, the goods in the game, and they're like resources that you can forage for, or you've gathered from local resources. But you can, in your build buildings, I talked about the production change, you can build buildings to get some of these bonuses. So in this game, there are over 130 different goods. Each type of goods has a different consumer value, right? So these goods are all part of production change, and different things your buildings can use and tile improvements can use. And as technologies progress, you can get more out of those goods. So that's quite a big variety of goods that you're going to be able to use throughout the game. And that's what I'm saying about the economic model, that there's quite a lot of depth to this game, and it's going to take some time to work out all the different production chains and what you want to do. And each game, I guess, will be a bit different, because you've got different type of resources depending on the map generation as to what you get access to. So that's a good idea of gives you a good example of just how deep this game goes in terms of economic, with your buildings and tile development. It's, I think, far more involved than a typical Civilization style game, even more than Civilization itself. There's a lot more depth in terms of the tile development and buildings that you can build from your, well, I call them cities, but they're regions. One area I looked at was in the cities, was the tile development, where you can put the populations to work certain areas around the city. And when I first sort of looked at it, I thought, this looks a bit plain or a bit simplistic. But I soon understood that as your population grows and you're building more buildings and tile improvements, because they'll show up on your tiles when you look at a region and you're allocating the population to the different regions to be worked, or different hexes, I guess, around your city to be worked, the tiles you've got. It soon fills out pretty quickly and starts to become quite complex. So I can see why they've presented it in that just simplistic hex style that you can view. In the beginning of the game, it looks, oh, what's this? There's nothing here, it's all empty. But as this region grows, you get access to more tiles. You've got all these buildings and tile improvements you're using to help access these tiles and make the most of them. So, and you also got to allocate, well, it gets done automatically, but you can also allocate the population to these various tiles to work as efficiently as you can make it. So I found that very interesting. That one thing I thought doesn't look quite right at the beginning. I soon found that no, it works really, really well. I guess some of the other things I haven't really talked about much is the vassals. So you start with your region, which is basically your city, and then as you go out and you build with a settler, you'll go and create what you call a vassal, which is like another smaller city, but it takes time to integrate that into your empire. So it's not just a quickly, you build this city and that's it. It's connected to your empire. It's producing a certain amount of goods. No, it'll be a vassal. It'll contribute some things to your empire, but it takes time to get it integrated into your empire and become an actual region of your empire. So I find that interesting, because you've got to plan ahead for what areas you want to secure, and it's not going to be instant, you can just go grab that resource and connect it up to your empire. And that's going to take a bit of time to do that. You got things like outposts and stuff as well, which you can use to build watchtowers and stuff to try and keep an eye on key areas. You might want to grab that key piece of terrain for a defensive bonus and have a watchtower or outpost there to keep an eye on what's happening there, and also as a rally point for armies that you make. The game also comes with governments, which is pretty standard for most Civ style type games, so you'll be able to explore what governments and what bonuses you get from each of the various types. So diplomatic relations in the game. So this didn't seem overly complex from what I've said. The diplomacy seems, I guess, probably one of the areas of the game I'd probably like to see a bit more improvement upon from what I've seen so far. It's just basic. You don't even really see pictures of the other leaders. As I said, they focus more on the economic game side of things, or the actual game mechanics, rather than spending a lot of resources on the I guess animations and pictures of what other leaders may look like. Perhaps that's yet to be implemented in the game, I don't know. But the diplomacy side of things, it's pretty just standard for a Paradox game. The normal things you'll see. I'd like to see a bit more expansion in this side of the game from what I've seen so far, but perhaps we'll see more as more dev diaries come out and the game gets closer to release. So rather than keep talking on and on and on, I think overall my impressions are very good. I was quite surprised by a number of the unique features of Millennium compared to some of the other Civ style games we've seen over the years and decades. This does add a lot of, I guess it brings some new perspective and some new unique features to a Civ style game, and it certainly had me wanting to keep playing, doing that next turn feeling. And for me as a Paradox game player, I really like that economic model and the deep economic model side of games. So that's what really interests me, in that they've implemented that into a Civ style game, which is, I think, is going to be one of the big features. And then you've got this ages system as well, which is really good, and the domain system, which seems quite different to most other Civ style games as well. So that's about all I can talk at the moment, without actually being able to show you in-game footage, which we're not allowed to do at this stage. That's about all I can think of at the moment. So if you've got any questions on the game, send me some comments, and we'll do some more reviews as the game gets closer to release. We get some more information, and perhaps they'll allow us to show in-game footage and stuff closer to the release date as it approaches in next year. Alright, thanks for watching. Bye for now.